Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
You're listening to the Athlete Profile Show on Wisp Sports. I'm Chris Stafford, and at Wisp Sports, we believe women in sport deserve equal coverage. My guest is Rachel Bauer, who is a former national champion, and she represented England too at boxing. After 10 years of competing, she turned her hand to coaching, and she soon worked her way up to becoming an England support coach while still volunteering with Earlsfield Amateur Boxing Club and the Metropolitan Police boxing team. Rachel's fighting highlights are winning the national championships at the Echo Arena in Liverpool with the only stoppage of the finals. It was also the first year that men and women boxed on the same stage. And her coaching highlights so far are being selected to train a celebrity for BBC's Sport Relief and coaching her boyfriend, an amateur super heavyweight. Well, Rachel, welcome to the programme. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
And you're joining us from the south of England, although you're from the north of England. Tell us a little bit about where life began for you and why you moved south.
So I was born and bred in Wakefield, West Yorkshire, up north. You might be able to tell from my accent. And I moved down to the south of England, first of all, to go to university. And then I joined the police down here about 13 years ago. And that's why I'm here now in the big smoke.
In Wimbledon, actually. It's not too smoky down there. It's a very nice part of London.
I do live in the nice part.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, obviously, Rachel, boxing has been your life, your career. You mentioned that the Met Police there, you were on that boxing team at one point, weren't you? So what got you into the police force after college? What was it that drew you to a life in the force in the first place?
Charlie's Angels wasn't recruiting, so the police was my next option. So, yeah, I joined straight from university, and I'm probably the only person who moved to London because of the high crime rate. But I thought I might as well be in the thick of it if that's what I was going to do.
What was the attraction?
Just something different and using my brain for good, not to make someone else richer, I suppose. I'm a detective, and that's what I set out to be.
And what kind of a detective? Which branch were you in?
I'm a detective sergeant now.
Okay. So whilst you're being in the police force, there was the opportunity to join the boxing team then. Was that your introduction to boxing, or had you done that before?
No, it was. I was quite late to boxing. I think I was about 23. The Met Police have a very old, I think it's the oldest boxing competition in the world that we know of, the Lafone Cup. It's an annual tournament between Met Police officers, so that was my first introduction. I entered that in 2006 or 7, I think it was.
Oh, as you say, pretty late in your career then. But what was the appeal? Did you have colleagues who were encouraging you to join?
Well, quite a funny story, actually. I decided that I wanted to get back into some kind of sport. I've always been very sporty. It kind of all disappeared when I was at university. I was just studying and going out drinking a bit too much. And then when I started work again, I decided that I wanted to get back into something. I was looking for something to do, wanted to do something a bit different, where a colleague overheard me talking and suggested boxing. He told me all about the Lafone Cup, how prestigious it was, that it'd be a really good thing to do. Offered to train me, said he'd do my corner. And I went training with him once, realised that he hadn't got a clue what he was talking about. It wasn't the boxing he was interested in. But it was too late. I told everybody that I was going to do it. And if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. So I ended up contacting the head coach of the boxing team and travelling an hour and a half every day after work each way to go and train for this competition.
Well, so that was really the catalyst then for it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. But you mentioned you had a sporting background. What did you do when you were younger in school, Rachel?
It was more a case of what didn't I do. I was never very good at sticking with anything. I think I was on my city swim team, cross-country team. I did karate. I went to a theatre school for dancing. I've done everything from sprint hurdles to pole vault. I was just always really active as a kid.
Obviously, you loved it. Was that from a sporting influence that you had from your family? Are they all sporty? Did they encourage you?
They did encourage me, but they definitely not sporty. I think it was more of a how can we keep her occupied and off the street. I didn't have a very good attention span, and I wasn't the best behaved child, so it was definitely encouragement to behave and be part of a club and learn some discipline more than anything else.
Did it do that for you?
It did, yeah.
What about siblings? Did you have any siblings and any rivalry there to be sportingly successful?
I have a younger brother who is quite athletic now, but it wasn't always the case, unfortunately. And I used to end up standing in for him and things. So my mum tried to toughen my brother up by enrolling him in a local rugby club. And he used to cry when he put his gum shield in because he didn't like the taste of it. So I ended up stepping in. And they were an age group below me, but I used to play rugby on the boys under 11s team.
Well done you. Well done you. So obviously, as you said, sport was important. You wanted to get back into it once you'd started your career in the police force. Talk a little bit about that competition then, how that unfolded and how that kept you in the sport, right? What it was from that particular cup, as prestigious as it was, an event in itself, you decided to continue after that.
Yeah, well, I'd put all the effort in while training because I really am an all or nothing type person. And then it got to the date of the final. Now, back then, there were hardly any women boxing, so I had a straight final, which meant that I got to box at the famous York Hall, which is the home of British boxing, in my first ever bout. So I was very, very excited about this. And I turned up to the weigh-in and my opponent had a cast on her arm. She'd broken her arm. I was absolutely furious, mainly because it was the first time in my life that I'd ever had to go on a diet and try and make weight for something and hadn't eaten a pudding in about 3 weeks. But it meant that I didn't get to compete. So my first bout was actually representing the police as the police champion against the RAF, having never competed before.
How did that go?
It went really well. I remember the bout quite well. It was at RAF Northolt, and I remember seeing my opponent warming up on the pads beforehand and absolutely worrying because she just looked so good. But I got in there and I just jabbed. That's all I did. I jabbed and I won a unanimous point. And it took over then, just the whole feeling, the fact that I'd found something that I was really good at helped as well because we all like being good at something. And yeah, it just snowballed after that, really.
So what did you learn about yourself in those early days then of fighting and getting into the sport, Rachel, that told you about yourself and what it took to be a boxer?
I think with boxing, it's the discipline. You really have to exercise a massive amount of self-discipline because no one else can do that for you. The waking up early to go training when you're finishing shifts at stupid times, eating, everything. It takes over your whole life, but you just learn that you can do something if you put your mind to it and if you are disciplined.
And what was it that challenged you most in your own personality and your own ambitions then about the sport? There must be something I find with any sport. It brings out something in us that it motivates us to be the best we can be. What was it with you?
Well, the most challenging thing for me was not eating everything that I laid my eyes on because I've always had a very healthy appetite. I don't know if that answers the question for you.
I think psychologically, I mean, obviously that's great. Yeah, because you had to keep your weight, right? And that was motivation in itself. And I'm just wondering about in terms of how it's developing your personality. Because training for the police, you learn a lot about yourself anyway, don't you, in the whole training process to be a police officer?
That is true. And this was just another step because it was quite soon after I joined the police that I started boxing for them. It's just, I love the fact that boxing takes you out of your comfort zone and it throws you in the middle of the ring and you have to deal with what's there because there is no one else in that ring with you during a bout. And for me, it's confidence. It's feeling okay when you're not in your comfort zone and knowing that you can deal with whatever life throws at you.
But there's a certain self-belief that goes with that, as well as the courage, to be brave, to get in there, to believe in yourself, and the confidence. And then you get the knockdowns, and we've talked about that elsewhere at With Sports just this week, actually, how athletes have to keep bouncing back and believe in themselves, if they get dropped from a team, if they get knocked down in the ring. What was it that motivated you at those times when you were down and when you were getting punched about?
I think knowing that it's just temporary, or you have the power to make it just temporary, because it's so easy to walk away from boxing as a sport. I know a lot of people who've had one bout, or they've had a couple of bouts, and then after their first loss, that's it. They don't want to know anymore. And for me, it was probably to prove to myself that that's not who I am. I'm not that kind of person. I'll lose a fight, but I'm going to come back better and stronger, and I'm going to win next time. Or I'm going to work on what my perceived weaknesses were and develop those into strength.
Well, come back you did, and you became a national champion and represented England. Talk a little bit about your career overall before we start talking about coaching, which has become your second career here. Let's talk a little bit about the career that you had and the journey that you had yourself to become a national champion.
Okay. So I competed for the police from around 2007 to 2011. I reached the finals of the national championships a couple of times. One year losing out on 1 point because it was the old scoring system. So I was always very close to winning the championship. At that point, I decided that I couldn't give boxing everything it needed anymore. My job was quite demanding, and I worked quite strange hours and shifts, so I wasn't able to make sparring sessions, and the night shifts were quite difficult with the eating as well. So I turned my hand to coaching and I stopped competing. But a couple of years later, I changed jobs, and my office was just down the road from the famous Fitzroy Lodge gym in Lambeth in London.
Okay, yeah.
And I kind of fell back into boxing by accident. A friend of mine said she'd been training down there, told me to meet her down there, which I did, apart from she didn't turn up. So I kind of walked in unannounced. I didn't realise that she hadn't prearranged it. Asked if I could train, and I explained that I used to box, but I was just here for a bit of fun. If I could train just, to get my fitness back up. But within about half an hour of being in there, one of the coaches was trying to get me on the scales and asking me, if I was going to compete again. And I let him talk me into it, and the rest is history. 2 years later, I was national champion boxing for England. I loved it. I still competed for the police a couple of times. I did a couple of World Police and Fire Games, boxed out in America. Came back with a silver medal. But then I did think to myself, okay, I've achieved what I want to achieve. I'm in the upper age limit. I haven't got long to go before I can't box as an amateur anymore. I'm going to retire on a high. And then in 2015, I retired good and proper, and I focused my efforts on coaching. And that's where I really started to push with the coaching.
What was it appealed to you about coaching then to make that transition, Rachel?
Well, any boxer will tell you it is addictive and it's hard to leave. We complain about the lifestyle, but we do love it. And I did want to stay involved somehow. And with coaching, you can really do that. You do feel such a part of it when you're in someone's corner, when they're in the ring. And I really, really enjoy watching how people develop and seeing their confidence and their skills develop. So that's why I chose to be a coach.
And now you've been doing this how long?
The coaching?
Yes.
Properly, without boxing as well, since 2015, but I actually qualified as a coach back in 2010.
Okay. And you didn't tell us what weight you boxed at yourself. What
I
weight
boxed
was that?
at bantamweight, which is 54 kilograms.
Okay. Okay.
And at the beginning of my career, I weighed about 55, eating what I wanted. But by the end of it, I was 33 when I retired. It started to be a little bit of a struggle to get down to that weight.
And now you can eat whatever you like.
I can, and I am doing, and I'm enjoying every minute of it.
All of those puddings. But do you
Yes.
train yourself? I know you're coaching, but what sport how do you keep fit now? What do you do?
I still box. I spar every now and again. I find I do come in useful. There's still not that many women who box at the elite level, and I think people come to me for sparring because I'm not training for anything. I've got nothing to prove. I'm not going to take the mick out of anyone. You know, we're all there to learn, and I can help them with a bit of technical advice as well. And I also teach in a gym where I'll go. They've been really kind. They've given me my own set of keys. So I try and train every other day.
Right. Now, this coaching obviously is something that you've taken to very naturally because you've become quite successful, as I understand it, reading between the lines here. What is it, do you think, that makes you a successful coach, and what is it that your athletes enjoy having you as coach? What's the kind of feedback do you get?
I think a lot of people appreciate that I've been there and I've done it, and I understand all their concerns. And actually, quite recently, I also listen, and my sessions can be quite interactive. Like, I'll let people decide what they want to do. I'm not a pushover when it comes to coaching, but I do like to give people responsibility for their own training as well.
Well, that's obviously a great thing, to motivate them and and empower them in a way that does make them stand on their own 2 feet. I'm sure that's part of a tactic of being a good coach, right? You just set them up for success and let them find their way. Now, I'm curious about the female involvement in the sport. Obviously, we know that a lot of women do, but a lot of girls do box these days. Have you seen an increase in the time that you've been involved, and what do you think has drawn young girls into the sport, Rachel?
Yeah, I've definitely seen an increase. I mean, from when I first started, it was gradual, but then we had the Olympics here in London in 2012 and what is known as the Nicola Adams effect. So Nicola Adams is our Olympic gold medalist. She's now a pro boxer. She was a sweetheart of British female boxing, and her face was used on lots of campaigns. And I think she was a brilliant role model for people because people think, oh, actually, this little sweet girl from Leeds who with a smile on her face, she can go out there and box and she's the best in the world. She's an Olympian. She's done it all again. And it just showed people that they can do it. And then I think even if it's just recreationally, more women turned up at gyms, used it to get fit. They might have discovered they were good at it and then started doing the serious classes and looking to compete. We've now got loads of professional boxers as well. The last couple of years have seen lots of really good amateur girls turn over. So we've got now an abundance of role models for young women to look forward to, which I think is really important in getting people involved in the sport.
So how many young girls and women do you train then, do you coach?
I train the police. So in our team at the moment, we've probably got around 20 females. I also teach recreational classes once a week, and I'd say it's about 50-50 in those classes. But there's still a long way to go. In my amateur gym, I think we have about 2 girls. So that's something that I'm really hoping changes over the next couple of years.
What draws them into the gym in the first place, Rachel? Apart from the role models like Nicola, of course, on a local level, what have you found that's pulled them into the gym? And then on an amateur level, but then in the police force, what is it that's 20, that's 50% is female. What do you think the attraction is for them too?
I think with the police, the Lafone Cup is a big draw. 90% of our boxers are novice. they will probably compete once or twice. They'll do a Lafone Cup and then they won't compete again, which is a shame. But that's just the nature of the club and the nature of police work. We have crazy shifts and crazy lives, which don't allow us to be as committed as we want to be. But that entering the Lafone Cup is a big deal. So a lot of people do it to do that, to say they've done it and tick it off the list. In regards to girls coming into gyms, I think a lot of people see it as a great way to get fit. But more and more, I think people are doing it because they're realising the benefits for confidence and helping with mental health.
And what about the men that you coach? I know you coach your boyfriend. That's something that's made the news recently. He's an amateur super heavyweight. So you train all weights then. You're coaching all weights, both men, male and female. But what is the difference between coaching women and men in the ring there?
Sometimes nothing, really not a lot. One of the big differences that I've found between myself and other coaches is I probably have my style because I am a woman, and I like when people coach me, I like things to be explained. I want to know why I'm doing it. I want to know why it works. I want a lot of information. Whereas in the past, I found that men literally want an order backed at them. They want to know what to do. They don't care why. They'll get on with it. As a coach, I give what I want to receive. So I will give a lot of that information. But a lot of the guys that I teach, the feedback I get from them is that they want that too. And I think that's why I've got on with coaching men as well, because they get in a bit of a different coaching style from a woman who's, maybe giving them a bit more freedom in what they do and, not wanting to take so much control over a session. And also by explaining things a little bit more, whereas they may not have had that in the past.
Yeah, I did read somewhere that you are very strategic, very technical in the information, that you convey. And I can understand the difference between men and women. Men are just, just get on with it, right? But we want to know how to get there and why we're being told that's the way to go. Then it's a very interesting difference. And I'm curious if that coaching per se is something that's of appeal to women generally. Are there many women coaches?
There's not that many, but like you say, it is an appeal, and I'm hoping that there do become a lot more. I mean, we've got so many brilliant female boxers now. I'm hoping when they retire like I did, they might choose to turn over to coaching as well.
How many would you say that you're aware of right now in the UK?
Female coaches?
Yes.
Club level, I don't know. There are a handful. I do see them out on the boxing circuit, but I'm very lucky to be involved with England at the moment. And on their support coaches, they have, I think, 6 or 7 throughout the whole of England. And England Boxing have been very proactive in developing them and their skills. And one of the full-time coaches, one of 2, Amanda Coulson, who is an ex-GB boxer, she has a full-time position, so she is England's boxing's highest level female coach. So again, we do have very good role models to look to.
And I'm assuming that the coaching qualifications are the same for women as they are for men, are they, to become a coach?
Yeah.
Right. And how long did that take you to do?
Do you know, I can't actually remember the dates that I did my coaching qualifications, but I do remember the courses, and they're spread over 2 weekends each. Now, I know the next level for me, I'm a level 2 coach at the moment. The next level is a huge step up, and it does require a lot more commitment. But it's something that I do enjoy and I do get quite involved with. I'm also a member of the England Boxing Coaching Subcommittee. So I've had some input in the way that we build and deliver courses, and then actually what we're including in them. So one of the things that I've been pushing quite hard at the moment is separate or additional sections in the coach education about coaching both women and children. because I don't think there's enough emphasis on the differences or especially for women, the difficulties or issues that might arise that are quite specific to women that some male coaches might not find too confident dealing with. So that's something that we're looking to add into our coach education.
So what next for you? Are you ambitious as a coach? Do you want to go up through the levels of coaching? How many are there?
So there would be 2 more levels as an England coach. I would say I am ambitious as a coach, but this is something that I do because I enjoy it and it's a hobby for me. I am committed, but I don't want it to be my full-time job. I just think for me that would take the fun out of it and put a bit of pressure that I don't want. I would like to move up to the next level. I'd like to, and in fact, my aim is in the next 2 years to do my first major international with one of the England teams. So I'm looking in the next 2 years to step things up a bit, have a bit more responsibility, and go away with one of the teams.
How about females in officiating in the sport? How many refs do you have that are women? I don't know if I've ever seen any. So do you have many that are female that come into the sport to officiate?
Yeah, we do, and they are quite visible. One of the higher level female refs is actually a friend of mine, Hilary Lissenden. She's very good on social media and will put herself out there trying to encourage more females to get involved in officiating. And it's quite funny actually, in the London amateur boxing scene, I'm seeing more young females being judges, then qualifying as referees. And I think that's a direct result from pushes from people like Hilary, who's also in the London region. And it's quite good personally for me because the girls who are doing it are girls that we boxed together. And now we're seeing all the young blood coming through because it's normally old men doing the judging, doing the officiating and refereeing. Now we're seeing these young women coming through. And we're all from my generation, so we've got coaches, referees, judges. We're having a bit of a takeover, to be honest, but it's really good to see.
Yeah, that's fantastic to see. That really is good to hear that that's happening in a sport because these changes we've found obviously are slow. I'm sure you've watched it in other sports that there are more women coming in to take on different roles, whatever it may be, in sport after their own career has ended. So that's very encouraging to know that boxing is leading the way in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, slowly does it, but England Boxing, our national governing body, they are actively promoting it. We've got our first female box cup next weekend, 7th and 8th, up in Manchester. They're very proactive with all the female officials. They've been brilliant with the female coaches. We are very lucky.
Well, it obviously looks the future looks bright for boxing in England and maybe worldwide too. Who are the leading nations, would you say, for women's boxing now? I know you've got Nicole there, but in terms of the bigger picture, Rachel, which countries would you say are the leading nations for women?
For pro boxing, probably America, but that's no surprise. But amateur is where my heart lays, and I think we're doing pretty well. Ireland's always been brilliant. I mean, we've got the likes of Katie Taylor, who is now professional, but was just the best boxer in the world. I think she was like 5-time world champion, Olympic gold medalist. She's my favourite boxer ever, men included. And people like Kelly Harrington now following in her footsteps. So I'd say Ireland are up there as well.
Wow, that's an exciting future to watch, both, as you say, in the amateur and the professional ranks. So for you and work, though, you say your schedule is pretty crazy with the shifts you have in the police force. What's a typical day like for you? You probably see some illegal fighting on the streets, don't you?
Not so much anymore. I've actually recently changed jobs so I can do a little bit more coaching because I was dealing with human trafficking and kidnapping. So most of my call outs are in the night. I had to do a lot of on call. I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. It was really difficult. I got promoted last year and I took a job that was mainly through the week. a couple of overnighters, but it does mean that I can get into the gym most evenings after work. Not as exciting anymore, but it means that I can indulge my passion, boxing.
You can do what you love. Yes. Are you going to tell us what you do during the day?
No.
Okay. Well, good for you. Obviously, a very valuable job and contribution to the Met Police there. So good for you, Rachel, and long may it continue. And obviously, your coaching career as well. It's something that you're passionate about. It's dear to your heart, and you've clearly become very successful. So good luck with that, and hopefully you produce lots of winners there. Women, we want to see women. Okay, we want to see women out there in the ring. Okay.
Thank you. And
all right.
Well,
fantastic. Well, do your best. I know you will. As you said, you're a pretty determined young woman. So the very best of luck, Rachel, and thanks for taking the time to come on the program.
You're welcome.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
And you can find links to Rachel's social media on the show notes accompanying this episode on the website at wispsports.com. And whilst you're there, you'll find links to various boxing organizations too. And you can join in the conversation here at Wisp Sports by following us on social media at Wisp Sports, and also join in our Facebook Live conversations. We have Face to Face, which is our Facebook Live show, where I talk to various guests from different sports around the world. So join us there. You can set your notifications so you don't miss an episode at Wisp Sports on Facebook. And if you're listening to us on your podcast app, I hope you'll check out some of the other shows here at Wisp Sports. There is something for everyone. And if you'd like to reach out to us here, you can drop us an email at info@wispsports.com and tell us who you would like to hear from in the world of women's sports. Until the next time, thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.